knows they will not get immunity. And we talked about it here on this bench, about that. So that is misleading the nation. They do not have immunity, that's for sure. And to say like my colleague, let's not preempt the issue. We don't know what charges Governor Kidero is going to face. I'm sure I saw that Professor Ojieda is representing him. Let's wait and see how things turn out today. Yeah, but the truth of the matter is that justice must be done and be seen to be done. So if people are involved in corrupt practices and they are charged with these offenses, you've made a very important point that in the past, people have been charged, they get bail or bond, then don't hear about it again. I've even written something about it myself. I published something on that a few months ago. People go and get anticipatory bail or bail, then that's the last to hear about it. Are you not surprised that the good and bad cases are still going on? Yeah, the Anglo leasing cases are still going on. It's ridiculous, and that's why we said, that's why I keep saying that like election petitions, we must have a time limit within which a corruption case must be heard and determined. So that the lawyers, and I'm a lawyer, so that the lawyers do not spend time getting adjournments and frustrating the hearing of a matter, so that it goes on and on and on, people forget about it, and then you meet the accused persons socially, the way you used to meet them, and it's like nothing is happening, and they know that nothing is going to happen. But I want to believe from what we are seeing, I want to believe that this is not a window dressing. I want to believe that what we are seeing now is serious, you know, that DPP Haji is serious, and DCI Kinoti is serious about what he is doing, and that we are going to see people tried within, say, a period of 3 months maximum, maybe 4, and then you are either found guilty and jailed, or you are not found guilty, go back to your normal life. Because court cases are also they can be very harrowing, as I'm sure a lot of people know. And you don't want that thing to keep hanging on you. So it's good that petitions are now coming to a close, are they not? They're even more complicated in real terms, in terms of trying them, than it is trying corruption cases, because corruption cases should be backed up by documents and documentation. So I do not see any reason, apart from what I said about the frustration coming from both the lawyers and the prosecution, and also, of course, the very well-known fact about corruption itself. You know, corruption is not something to joke around with. It can frustrate a case forever. So I would like to see the Chief Justice, for whom I have the greatest respect. I'd like to see him making, directions on how corruption cases are going to be tried. What periods of time time lapses are going to be given there, and the leeways, so that the Chief Magistrate Ogoti of the Anti-Corruption Court has got directions, and he knows that this case must come to a close by, say, 3, 4, 5 months. Then Kenyans would now stop having that feeling that you have, that people get bail, and that's the last. And that's it. And because in truth, that's what has been happening in the past.
And would you not say to some extent then that also encourages corruption? Because Honorable Kipruto, that means I can still today, I find the whole out there media, tomorrow my face will be everywhere. I give it 3 months, Kenyans will forget about it. And I go on enjoying my millions.
Well, it's unfortunate that has been the case. And I think we do expect 2 things. And I pray for the 2 to happen. One is the issue that we get convictions, so that it's not the number of cases that we prefer against individuals. It is the number of convictions that we get out of these cases, and of course with using the due process. I also expect that we will be careful in issues of what people return, so that at the end of the day, Kenyans should know that so-and-so took away 200 million, he has returned 200 million plus the interest component that money has accrued for the period he has used. It is important because it has to come to an end. And this will assist even society to adjust. And as we deal with the cases in court and others to be brought before the court, we need also public awareness, because I've said before, and I still hold this opinion, that corruption is pervasive in our society, because society does accept that corruption is part of life. Because somebody is corrupt today, he goes to court, even before the case is over, he is elected an official, which means the people at the constituency don't think that that fellow did the wrong thing. Because for many of our communities, if you are corrupt and you are partaking in your loot, then you are one of us. And therefore, we have to protect you at all costs. Yeah.
All right, Michael, what else has grabbed your attention this morning?
Well, yes, that is obviously going to be news that will continue throughout the day with Kidero being arrested. And in case you're joining us now, that's the headline for both The Nation and The Standard. And in March, a damning report by audit firm KPMG, which covered revenue, debt, cash, and banking, as well as assets, indicated that 21 billion shillings was not accounted for by Dr. Kidero when he left office last year. So, of course, our eyes are going to be trailed on the courts today to find out what charges are going to be pressed on against him and how that case is going to go. But also, as the panelists have mentioned, there seems to be a change and a wind of change in the country, and something else that's happening is the demolition. 4,000 more targeted for demolition. We know that this started with the Shell petrol station that is in Kileleshwa, which is on riparian land. Yesterday we had South End Mall being demolished, but apparently there's also another good number of buildings and apartments that are targeted by NEMA. This is being championed by NEMA. And maybe to start with you, Honorable Kipruto Arap Kirwa, the fact that, first of all, these buildings have been on riparian land, according to NEMA, and they have been there for a while. Is this something that we expect is going to be sustained? It reminds me of when there were buildings being demolished for the sake of the road. Kenyans went up in arms saying that that should not happen. But here we are now again with buildings that are, according to this, are built on illegal land.
Yeah, what worries me is the really magnitude of the houses. And you're talking of 4,000?
Yes, 4,000 more targets.
Let's assume on average, each house is worth about 10 million. That's now billions of shillings or dollars going down the drain, which means the foundation of our society is wanting, in the sense that this person got a permit and all the licenses to put up the structure. Secondly, 4,000 houses means there may be clients who bought from the original owner, and therefore they are going to suffer collateral damage out of a mistake not of their own. And it is something very fundamental that yes, you are demolishing these houses. What measure are you putting in place such that tomorrow somebody else does not use corrupt means to ensure that he builds again, and he would wings Kenyans into buying into an empty space, because really that is empty space. So it worries me, not because of the houses, but because of Kenyans who are suffering out of innocent patches of houses, thinking that these are not on the riparian land. So my take is, how many more in other towns are going to be demolished? What are we doing now to stop any construction on riparian land? Because I see almost every other day buildings coming up, whether it is in Kitale, Eldoret, here in Nairobi. As we are demolishing these ones, others are coming up.
And on that note, Honorable Kipruto, don't you not think that the core of this issue, the core of this problem, are organizations such as NEMA, the Water Resource Management Authority, who approves for these buildings to go up? Shouldn't we also be fixing on solving matters inside there?
In fact, I think it is important that even we go back to the records, because there must have been somebody in the office who signed for these houses to be built, so that they take responsibility, such that anybody in office will know that some of these crimes that we commit in office, or abuse of office, or miscarriage of justice, in terms of how you carry yourself in the office, will catch up with you, however long it takes. Such that we should actually be publishing that this one was approved by so-and-so, this one was approved by so-and-so, by this particular authority, whether it was City Hall, whether it was a NEMA, whether it was whatever organization, so that at the end of the day, we should not be punishing Kenyans, because I know many of them will be in the street tomorrow and without jobless alternative housing. The government should also think of it, that yes, we punish the culprit to build the house, but we see how do we mitigate on some of the innocent house owners who did not know that this thing was going to happen. At times they tell you due diligence. Due diligence means you check with your office whether this is okay. And there is a limit. You know, any document from should actually be a credible document, such that in future we should not have doubt whether was it, did I do due diligence before I bought the house? Because today I may want to buy a house, then I go check in the Ministry of Lands, they tell me it's okay. I check with NEMA, they tell me it's okay. Only for it tomorrow to be said there was a problem.
Right.
We need to go to the foundation of this problem.
Right. Another aspect is the fact that someone could obtain an order restraining them or restraining City Hall and the government to pull down whatever buildings that they own. What happens thereafter? Because a lot of these buildings, there's rumor that also Westgate will be part of it. There's rumors that Two Rivers will also be part of it. These are big malls within Nairobi, and they move to court, then what?
I think reason finally will have to prevail. Because we are living in very interesting times. And we are living in a country which has lots and lots of intrigues. The things that happen here are not normal things. You hear about Ruaraka land. You hear somebody has been paid 1.5 billion shillings, 3.2 billion shillings. Then suddenly, you hear that that was our own land we are buying anyway. It was public land in the first instance. And people are just around here going to court as if nothing has happened, and they don't seem to care. Now, it's riparian land must be sacrosanct. Because the moment we start joking around with nature, that's where we go wrong. Because Nairobi River could erupt and be what it truly is. And you find it causing a lot of damage to the houses which are in the riparian area. And that is why common sense demands that you should not build so many meters from the center of a river, right? And that is why your title, whereas it may go to the middle of the river, whereas your beacon may be at the middle of the river, bylaws do not allow you to build so many meters away from it. But it's been taken for a joke here. So you find people literally not just building near the riparian area, but I've seen buildings in Westlands, I don't have to name them because most of you know them, which are actually built over the river. So the river is passing under the buildings. How they were approved, I do not know. And these are multi-billion shilling investments, and they are there. The tragedy of our time is that we have NEMA. You cannot build until you have done an environmental impact assessment report, which then NEMA approves. You cannot build until National Construction Authority gives you authority to build. You cannot build until City Hall approves your drawings, both architectural and engineering drawings. You cannot. So what intrigues me is that all people, it's not possible that if it's called something more, Southern Mall. If Southern Mall has been built without all those approvals,
right,
then something is very wrong. If it has been built with those approvals, then I want to promise you one thing, and I do not support, personally I do not support for a minute, anybody playing around with a riparian land. Nobody should build on a riparian land, and if a house is on a riparian land, it must be demolished. But what I want to promise you is that Chief Justice Maraga must also give new directions, because there will be a multiplicity of suits coming henceforth. Because you might go to South End Mall and find that although it belonged to it was developed by so and so, I don't know, I have no idea whose it is. There are lots of rumors going around Nairobi. You may find that the owner has sold the floors as units. You know, they may have sold, or it may have moved on to third parties. You go to Riverside, you go to Kireresha, go to Lavington, all those apartments coming up have been sold as single units. So although somebody developed that unit, the apartments belong to individual persons. Right. Innocent purchasers for value without notice. Maybe they're supposed to do due diligence, like Honorable Kirwa is saying, but then you find a building is standing, and you assume, naturally, that everything was done correctly. But the truth of the matter is that you may have bought that apartment for 20 million shillings. The owner has paid back his loan with the bank.
And moved on.
And moved on. Now you are left holding the baby. So what are you going to do? The house is down, right? So the first person you sue is the person who?
You bought from.
Right. The developer. Then the developer now goes again and sues NCA, NEMA, Nairobi City, County, because they allowed him or her to build that, to bring it on. Then Nairobi City Council is going to sue somebody else for I don't know what reason. Then you hear that engineer so and so is now being charged with abuse of office because she approved those drawings when they ought not to have done it. So we are going to see a multiplicity of suits. And it's going to be very expensive for Kenyans. And this is a turning point. This is a moment that all of us must now start realizing that choices have consequences. That you make a decision, you expect it has consequences. Because that fellow who was given, say, 1 million shillings to approve that building surely must be made to account. And that person must not just be made to account, he must be made an example so that it doesn't happen again. I believe some things have to be done. True, billions of shillings are going down the drain right now when all these malls and other houses are brought down. But two wrongs do not and have never made a right. That is why I think these things must be done so that Kenya doesn't appear to be a free-for-all, that you can do what you want because you've got a little money here, a little money there.
Okay.
This is now setting, trying to set a standard so that people can now understand what it means to develop a city, what it means to develop a building within the city.
All right, and maybe just as we wind up, we do know the headlines for the Daily Nation is Kidero arrested, but looking at the Nation, there's also a story there, and I'd like to hear your comments, Kipruto Rapkirwa. I see your party leader, Mudavadi, faults Raila and Kalonzo on supporting Uhuru's agenda. And, well, from what we've heard from the opposition or from NASA leaders is that they're supporting Uhuru on the things that affect Mwananchi positively, but will still keep government in check. Is this a change of tune when he says that he's not supporting, or rather he faults Raila and Kalonzo for supporting Uhuru? Well, page 5 of the Nation.
Well, I don't know. The last time I got in touch with my party leader, which is a few days ago, it was that we support the government on so far as issues appertaining to the public good are concerned. Issues such that they touch on Mwananchi, so that at the end of the day, we are not seen to be stifling the effort of the government to better our nation. But I do not know in what context he was quoted, but I do suspect possibly somebody might have overreached himself by almost saying something that he did not really say.
Okay, so you would say on behalf of the party that you are in support of Uhuru's agenda, or rather Jubilee's agenda, let's put it that way.
That's the position of my party leader, and he was in the media almost 3 days ago, and he came out clearly that yes, he supports government on issues that he feels that are of the welfare of our state.
Okay, because in this article, it actually quotes him and says that Mudavadi yesterday termed as a return to the dark days a talk of a formation of unity government, saying the opposition should instead remain vibrant to check government excesses.
Yeah, I think he's very right there, and even I share the same opinion, that the fact that we are supporting government does not mean we have to cross over and become part of Jubilee. We are supporting government from the position of opposition because we believe elections are over, and in the intervening period there is so much activity that we all need to support. After all, the implementation of the programs by President Uhuru Kenyatta administration are the same issues that we foresaw in Vision 2030. Nothing new has been churned out. Of course, at times people say we dreamt, they did, which is of course a misnomer, because administration to administration is the same government of Kenya, different administration from Kibaki to Uhuru to somebody else tomorrow.
All right. For right now, what we're going to do, we're going to release our KTN home viewers for a different program. But on KTN News, we're taking a quick commercial break. State of the Nation is up next. We're going to dive into some of these big stories, but we're going to go deeper. Let's take a breather. We'll be right back.